As mentioned, I am Devin Hoffarth. I am the Market Development Director for Minnesota Corn. I really focus on the new uses portfolio for Minnesota Corn, and then also our trade portfolio, working with our national partners like U.S. Grains Council and the U.S. Meat Export Federation. For this presentation, a little bit about Minnesota Corn. Marlene already covered this, so I will skip over this one, but if you have any questions on our two different separate organizations, happy to answer any of those as we go. So the topics for today, just wanted to give you a brief update on the ethanol sales update for 2023. We just actually, you'll notice, my slides are updated from the slides in the handout. Just this morning, Minnesota Department of Commerce released an updated report with revised October numbers, and then also we have some November numbers to report as well. And then we'll really move into that new uses commercialization opportunities, talk about corn plastics, Minnesota Corn's investment in the University of Minnesota Center for Sustainable Polymers, and then we'll touch on a couple of spin-out companies that came out of the Center for Sustainable Polymers, Lacryl, Valerian Materials, and then we'll move into some new uses for the ethanol market. As most of you, I'm sure, are familiar, the clear flame engine technologies that Minnesota Corn has been invested in for the last several years. They're currently in the pilot phase, so I will touch briefly on that, and then we'll move into some other opportunities beyond the trucks. There's also opportunities for EV charging, specifically in that California market. And then lastly, just touch briefly on sustainable aviation fuel. So for our ethanol sales update, see if I can get the pointer here. So we really struggled after COVID or during COVID and really tried to rebound from there. And last year in 2022, we saw some really record numbers. We hit 10 million gallons in a single month, which is really impressive, considering all things considered, coming off of some really tough years. But then 2023 came and we kept setting records. During the summer driving season, starting in around that May timeframe, we hit 10 million gallons again, and then we just kind of rode that out. In August, you'll see there, the revised report shows that we hit 11 million gallons in a single month. And then our November number, which is really quite impressive. Generally, we can see around 500,000 to a million gallons added after the revised reports, and already seeing that 10.23 million gallons sold for November is quite impressive. So looking at the years, starting in 2013 when unleaded 88 was first introduced, unleaded 88 also known as E15, and you can see last year we hit 100 million gallons in a single year. And then for 23, we've already exceeded that, and we could look to be at about, once the December numbers come in, probably about 15% above last year, year over year. Along with increased sales also comes increased stations. So you can see we really took a sharp increase, and right now we ended 2023 with 462 stations that we know of that we are tracking, but really in reality we're probably closer to 500 today, and we're expecting about 50 to 70 stations in 2024, but right now I'm tracking a total of 501 by the end of 2024. Touch briefly on E85 sales. You can see, our record years for E85 were back in the 2000s, early 2010s, and then kind of this 2012, 2013 is when it started decreasing some. Of course, we all know what happened. There's not that many flex fuel vehicles available to purchase new, so that has not helped any. But we are seeing in 2022, we saw a rebound from COVID. And then again for 2023, we should be back actually to the 2018 pre-COVID numbers by the end of this calendar, or once the revised reports come out for 2023. So now to move into the new uses portion of this. Like I mentioned, the University of Minnesota Center for Sustainable Polymers. This is a National Science Foundation program that they have at the university. The National Science Foundation portion of that grant is actually going to be expiring. So what the university is doing, they're still going to continue with the Center for Sustainable Polymers, but it'll be likely a scaled down version moving forward. And we can talk a lot about the incentives for biomanufacturing. Right here in Minnesota, we have BioMade that the state approved funds for last year to stay in the state. And that really plays off of NSF, Center for Sustainable Polymers. So at this center, they do a lot of the early bench research for their projects. And within this, we've had several companies, but did want to mention briefly 3 companies that came out of the Center for Sustainable Polymers and actually are startup companies operating today. Lacryl Technologies, which Minnesota Corn has been investing in since that 2020-2021 timeframe. Valerian Materials, which Minnesota Corn has been in conversations with for several years. And now, just recently, we are looking into a partnership with them as well. And then CyclePure, which is a purification, water purification system. Also, all of these are corn-derived materials. So digging a little bit deeper into Lacryl Technologies, if you were here a few years ago when Mackenzie Bobine, who was on staff with Minnesota Corn at the time, presented, she talked a lot about Lacryl, and that was kind of our early years in Lacryl. And really, we're still on the R&D pathway. We're moving forward. We're still about 2 years out before we get to a full-scale pilot demonstration. But anyways, the acrylic acid market is about a $5 billion per year market. And just acrylic acid alone, we could see about 350 million bushels of corn if everything was converted. Now, if we add in all acrylates, that's a $10 billion per year market, and we could see 700 plus million bushels of corn for both acrylic acid and acrylates. So there's 2 different processes with the Lacryl technology. You can see here up on top, it's demonstrating the acrylate process, where we're actually taking corn, making ethanol, and then ethanol goes through the Lacryl process, which would make an acrylate, corn-derived acrylate. On the bottom, which is going to be one of the first processes that we're going to see, is actually taking the corn, creating lactic acid, and then putting that through the Lacryl technology to create acrylic acid. And acrylic acid is used in many products that you use probably every day, paints, diapers, many different chemicals, adhesives, really common in those products. And about a year ago, this month actually, Lacryl was published, and you can see there greater than 90% yield, which is a major milestone. Being able to get to there also means that now Lacryl is cost competitive with the petroleum alternative, which is traditionally used today. So continuing the scale-up process, we could likely see in the next 2 to 3 years some of these plants going online. As far as the ethanol pathway, that is going to be like a bolt-on to an existing ethanol plant to create the acrylate. And then the lactic acid, there's many lactic acid facilities already creating lactic acid today. So this would just be a process that could be added onto them, or there could be new facilities going up as well. Valerian Materials is something a little bit newer, but they're really on track to start doing business tomorrow. So applications, there's 2 different routes for the Valerian Materials process, and that's going to be the MPD or the polloys, excuse me. So really what we're working on them with is taking it from the bench scale to the pilot scale. So currently today they have buyers in Europe. Europe is going to be a major market for a lot of these bio-based chemicals. It's a very high demand. It's in very high demand from polymer producers, and Valerian Materials has been had to speed up their timeline. So initially they were planning maybe a couple years out that they would really scale things up to take the time to do so, but basically their buyers in Europe, they need to get this pilot scale and a process developed so that they can take this from the bench lab that they have today all the way to the pilot scale. This would be really looking at licensing this technology. So what they would do is they would work with a toll manufacturer to create, so for the MPD, that's just a drop-in monomer that could be used. For the polloids, that's much larger market. It's going to be very similar to Lacryl with the 350 million bushels per year for the acrylic acid. Likely the polloids and MPD together could be about 350 bushels per year. And also, one thing that I should mention, both the Lacryl technologies and Valerian materials, the processes that their chemicals are going into, their markets continually grow year after year. In fact, Lacryl technologies, they're expecting I think it's like a 10% increase by 2030. So that's right around the corner. So with the Valerian materials, those products that you could think of that it would be a drop-in today ready for manufacturing would be for foams, elastomers, plastics, and thermosets. So you can see there some ideas on what this process could look like. Now moving into the ethanol portion. So clear flame engine technologies, I'm sure you all have heard at least a little bit about them. They've been making the rounds on the media circuit in a lot of ag publications. But then also, if you're familiar with in the trucking industry or anything like that, get any of those magazines, they have been featured in there as well. So currently they're working on Class 8 trucks. So the process started, the pilot phase started for that a couple of years ago, and they thought that they were going to kind of take a slow pace to this, but once again, the market is demanding cleaner technology, and they had considerable interest from large fleet operators. Think some of the large companies that have truck routes, and you can probably guess the companies that they're working with. So currently they are working with them, and on average they're finding that cost savings about $32,000 per year for a truck running 100,000 miles per year. And then also they are moving now into the EV charging. So they have commissioned many studies in this specifically for the California market. EVs are dominating in California. We know that they're not going away in California. And they have found that up to 10% less expensive than hydrogen and 3% less, or 3 times less than battery. And it's also up to 20% less carbon intensive than the California grid. So the next steps for clear flame engine technologies is agriculture. Of course, we've all been anticipating this and waiting. We heard, if you're a John Deere person, I'm sure you've heard that they actually just released a prototype ethanol engine over in Germany, I believe, at one of the shows. So it's coming along. John Deere was actually an early investor in Clear Flame, and they decided to go, they're still an investor of Clear Flame, but decided to go off on their own to create something that would work a little bit better in large ag equipment. But also, Clear Flame is really focused on mining as their next steps. Our next steps as an organization with Clear Flame, our contracts with them have ended. Clear Flame really doesn't need Minnesota Corn's help. We help nurture them up to the point that they're at, and now there's a lot of private investors that are very interested in this technology. So we took it, this is a really good demonstration of what we're doing at Minnesota Corn when it comes to the new uses portfolio, is we are taking these companies, we're taking it from a proven, bench scale process and moving that up into the pilot phase and demonstrating that there is a viable market for this, And then that's when private investors come in and really with the heavy lifting, with the significant capital investment that is required. So our next step with this process with ClearFlame, but it even goes well beyond ClearFlame, is the pump certification. So currently today, E100 can be basically, you can put it in a tank at a storage facility, you can, all the pipes are certified for E100, but today there is not a pump that is certified for E100. So if we want to get this at all the truck stops across the United States so that all these big trucking companies, trucking companies can really take advantage of this technology, we need to get pump certification so that they can, really start pumping this at large volumes at these locations. But then even beyond that, there are really outside of Minnesota. Minnesota is a biofuels leader, has been forever and will be probably for a very long time. But there are some states where it's a little bit more difficult, more so on the refiner end. They're not offering ethanol blended products. So if a station wanted to offer ethanol blended products, with this option, they could actually be blending right on site at their station. So that is something that we're currently working on for within fiscal year 24, is working through that process. It takes a lot of studies and demonstrations to get certified for those pumps. And lastly, just want to touch briefly on sustainable aviation fuel. So back in August, Greater MSP, Delta, Ecolab, Xcel Energy, and Bank of America announced that Minnesota is they're creating this sustainable aviation fuel hub in Minnesota. Really fueled by Delta's demand for fuel use in Minneapolis. Delta is committed to making Minneapolis, every flight that takes out of Minneapolis, be fueled with sustainable aviation fuel. So 250 million gallons is what Delta uses for fuel each year in Minneapolis. And they have a goal of 50% by 2035, and then slowly stepping up to the full 100%. So there are many unknowns, but with all of that, there is very little risk for corn growers when it comes to sustainable aviation fuel. I know we've heard a lot of folks talking about sustainable aviation fuel and how there are many different processes to get SAF. I mean, you can, I think I'm tracking 9 different processes today, and each process can use probably 10 different feedstocks. So there's, like I said, lots of unknowns, but something that we're really excited about at Minnesota Corn to be a part of. We have officially joined as a member of the SAF Hub, and we'll continue to do our research and market development as things come up. There's a significant number of really benefits or rewards that we could see coming out of this. As you can see the list up there of some of the partner or really the core founders of this project. There's some pretty heavy hitters and can help influence and hopefully we can help educate them when it comes to the ag side of things. Because as you all know, ag has a good story. We just need to get better at telling it. And when it comes to all these bio incentive programs or bio incentive demands throughout the state and throughout the country and really throughout the world, agriculture can definitely be an answer. And we have a significant opportunity to ensure that we have a diversified market for our crops as well. So that's just briefly some of the new use activities that we've been working on. Of course, we do so much more at Minnesota Corn with the checkoff. Just wanted to mention briefly here, as Marlene already did in her presentation, but you can learn more at mncorn.org on how your checkoff is being used. $2.6 million is invested annually in research towards improving on-farm practices and identifying new markets. Specifically, this is the discovery and development team, and they're really focused on that early stage research. So what I just talked about today with Lacryl, Valerian Materials, Clear Flame Technology, the SAF hub, that's really more established. SAF, not quite, but a little different purpose there. But the others are a lot more established, and that's what our utilization team is doing, is contributing our portion of the checkoff into those type of programs to really continue the process from early bench scale to see it 2. Then lastly, just wanted to mention there, 200% plus the demand for ethanol if Clear Flame is able to get just a small percentage of the heavy duty truck market.